What's up, my brother?
Remember when some characters in OPBR used to feel complete unstoppable? Units that used to dominate the meta, destroy lobbies, and make everyone rage every single time. But now if you bring them into League, you might just get cooked in seconds. The meta in OPBR changes really fast, and a character that used to be top tier can suddenly become almost useless once new mechanics and counters arrive. So in today's video, we're going to talk about 10 characters that used to be OP but are struggling in the current meta. And my brother, some of these units were absolute monsters when they first released. But before we start, let me know in the comments, which character do you think fell off the hardest in OPBR's history? So enough yapping, and let's start listing. First on my list is Gear 5 Luffy. When this unit released, my brother, he was one of the most toxic characters in the game. Almost every match had Gear 5 players running around, causing chaos, capping, defending, attacking. And honestly, this was also one of the best investment I ever made in OPBR. He had insane survivability, strong skills, and he could control the battlefield really well at that time. For me, okay? But in the current meta, things are very different. Right now, there are so many characters that can deal crazy amount of damage, and Gear 5 V1 just can't keep up anymore. Sure, you might survive a few matches here and there, but surviving doesn't mean the unit is still strong in the meta. Right now, he feels like he's just barely hanging on, just trying to have fun out there. And honestly, my brother, I'm really waiting for the character adjustment for this unit. Because if Bandai or Mr. Tenepicer buff him properly, Gear 5 V1 could definitely become playable again in the meta and stay for quite some time. Next, we have Film Red Shanks. This unit used to be one of the best attackers in the entire game. Back then, fighting a good Film Red Shanks was honestly terrifying. And I used to fight veterans who's a sweaty Film Red Shanks player, and it's so tough. They were extremely hard to deal with and could wipe your entire team if you weren't careful. Even after Gear 5 V1 released, Film Red Shanks could still perform pretty well, but right now the meta has become way too harsh for him. He just feels behind compared to newer attackers. You can still play him from time to time, but it's going to be very difficult to carry matches with him now. Which is why I'm actually confused why we got his re-banner again. Just why? It feels like a huge bait banner, but who knows, my brother. Maybe Bandai or Mr. Tenepicer is planning to buff him very soon. Not confirmed, okay, but there's definitely a possibility. Next is Green Runner Kaido. Back then, my brother, this unit was one of the most annoying runners in OPBR. Based on my experience, I don't want to deal with this unit back then. He could move around the map and capture flags in extremely frustrating ways. But the problem now is the meta defenders. The current defenders have crazy mechanics that make capturing treasure much harder. And since Kaido is a green unit, he also gets destroyed by characters like Kizaru. If he tries to capture a flag against those units, he can get shredded almost instantly. So even though you might still win some matches using him, that doesn't mean he's still strong in the meta. Okay, it's not just against Kizaru. Even against Kuzan, he's having hard time. And that is just 2 units. And what about other units now? He's so cooked. Next, we have Yama Ace. This unit used to be an absolute one-tap machine. The damage output was insane back then. Huge AoE attacks, crazy burst damage, and if you missed your dodge against this character, you were basically finished. You're cooked. You will get one tap. I remember back then when I was using green units and I had almost no counters against Yama Ace. And until today, I still wonder, how did I even survive that meta? It was honestly crazy. And at that time, I can only use green units and Yama Ace is a red element. Yeah, I'm cooked. Really. But now things are very different. Even though Yama Ace can still deal some good damage, his biggest weakness is status effect. And if you look at the current OPBR meta, it's basically full of status effects everywhere, in my opinion, which makes it much harder for this unit to perform consistently. Next, we have Blue EX Luffy, also known as Bluffy. This character is actually the most expensive unit in OPBR history, but right now, my brother, he's honestly useless in the current meta. He's basically a glass cannon. Yes, he can one-shot enemies and and he's still a very fun character to play. But the problem is that every character now deals insane damage, and Bluefy is extremely squishy, so in most situations he just gets deleted instantly. Maybe you can cook someone in a 1v1 fight, but OPBR isn't a 1v1 game. It's a 4v4 battlefield, and someone will eventually jump you out of nowhere. And once that happens, Bluefy's getting cooked. Next is Kid and Law. Honestly, my brother, I didn't even want to put this unit on the list because technically this character can still perform in my opinion, but it will be too hard. But compared to the current meta runners, he just feels much weaker now. Runners in general are already having a hard time in the current meta, and Kid and Law is starting to feel outdated. You can still play him and he's still a fun character, but it's very hard to rely on him as your main runner in competitive matches. So hopefully maybe Mr. Tenepi sees this video and decides to buff him. Just maybe. We can only hope, alright? We can only hope, but Mr. Tenepi, sir, come on. Come on, buff not one unit or not just one EX unit, but buff at least 2 or 3 so that we can have some fun, you know. Next is Light Element Shanks. This is actually the first character I ever bought a ticket for just to guarantee him. And when he released, my brother, I felt like I was on top of the world playing this unit. He was insanely strong and extremely fun to use, but right now in the current meta, I honestly think a lot of people are coping when they say Light Shanks is still meta, Light Shanks is back, Light Shanks is good. And I don't think it's a skill issue, I think it's a knowledge issue about the current meta, because players tend to focus on only one unit and they forget about all the other characters that hard counter Light Shanks. Really, come on. Right now, if you try to play him as a runner or attacker, you can get cooked very easily. Unless you are lucky, there's no counter. Especially if the enemy team has units like Kizaru or Siren, you're cooked. It's just 2 units. Okay, let's put Blackbeard V2 in there. You're cooked. And even Gear 5 V2 can deal with him pretty easily now. So in my opinion, this unit really needs a buff as soon as possible. Come on, Mr. Tenepi. Should be Shanks. Should have buffed Shanks. Next, we have Red Defender Big Mom. And honestly, my brother, I actually love this unit. Back then, I really thought she was very underrated. Her kit was very unique. Really, she could defend treasure extremely well, and she could also switch into a runner mode and capture flags, and she can ignore the enemy, which is nice, and that made her very flexible in my opinion at that time. But right now it feels like Mr. Tenepi sir completely forgot about this character. They keep using her as a bait banner, but they never give her a proper buff. You can still play her sometimes in my opinion, but compared to modern defenders, she just feels much easier to deal with now. Now let's talk about the Bounty Fest units. First, we have Jabra. And my brother, when Jabra released, he was absolutely insane. And at that time, if your team didn't have at least one Jabra, it was very hard to compete. He was destroying almost everyone in the meta. But right now, he feels completely outdated. Sure, he might still beat Blackbeard V2 sometimes, but that doesn't mean he's good in the current meta. For example, if the enemy has Gear 5 V2, Jabra is basically finished. Instead of damaging Gear 5 V2, he will just heal him, okay? And that's only one unit, Gear 5. So what's the meta right now? Still Kizaru is in there. Kizaru counters Jabra. Even Kuzan counters him. Not really counters, they completely destroy Jabra. So in the current meta, Jabra just feels useless most of the time. And finally, we have Albert. Yes sir, this unit used to be absolutely crazy back then. He could even destroy meta EX characters, which is insane. The only real counter he had back then was EX Zoro, or if you messed up your dodge or cook. But if you were good with dodging and positioning, you could still deal with Zoro and carry matches. Not just Zoro, but other unit. Back then, I actually used to main Albert though, and he was one of the most fun characters to play. But the problem now is the multi-hit meta. Many characters now have multiple hits even on their basic attacks, and that completely ruins Albert's survivability. Even if you play him well, it feels like you just can't carry matches with him anymore. So yeah, those are my 10 OPBR characters that used to dominate the game but are struggling in the current meta. Some of these units really deserve proper buffs from Mr. Tenepi, sir, because a lot of them were actually very fun to play. But now, I want to hear from you. Which character do you think fell off the hardest in OPBR history? And which character do you think deserves a buff the most? Let me know in the comments, and you know the drill. Stay salty and stay awesome and salty rock. Now signing off.